Hello everyone and welcome back to my first time reading Bleach. As I talked about last time, and what blew my mind last time was that Aizen spent a few chapters reminding me why he's so scary, and it worked incredibly well in such a devastating and horrifying way. Most of the hope that Ichigo and I shared was ripped away in front of our eyes as strong heroes were duped and taken out with very little effort at all, and they didn't stand a chance, and the opening they were trying to give Ichigo was never made. So instead of being able to take advantage of their efforts, Ichigo instead had to watch them all lose. But there may be one spark of hope left, but that spark might actually be a raging inferno as head captain Yamamoto has re-entered the battlefield. My initial question though was, where have you been, man? Last time we saw you, you were chatting it up with Shinji and apparently just stood there while him and everyone else got beat up by Aizen? You couldn't have thrown a few fireballs into the mix to try to help them? You couldn't have trapped Aizen in a wall of fire again? Initially, I was a little mad at him for it, at least at first, before we find out his reasoning and what he was actually doing, but my annoyance was outweighed by a small bit of comfort. Yes, comfort. He brought some comfort because usually I don't like Yamamoto much. He's always been the stern authority figure that I often don't agree with, and that's proven to be very fallible sometimes, but I also respect this guy's sheer power, and it's the power that made me feel a little at ease. Aizen has proven to be far beyond the other captains, but we've seen glimpses before that Yamamoto is also well above most of the warriors in the Soul Society. Like, he's the head captain for a reason. We saw that both Ukitake and Shunsui were gonna have to try to fight together against him in the Soul Society arc, and it really seemed like they weren't gonna do that well even together. We've seen how powerful he is, at least a little bit, so surely if anyone has a chance to put up any kind of fight against Aizen, it's the head captain of the 13 squads, and this is a natural fight to want to see. The two leaders of the clashing forces facing off. I may not have gotten my old man brawl between Yamamoto and my beloved King Barragan, but this is the next best thing. As far as potential Yamamoto fights, I wanted to see this too. The feeling I got when he showed up was similar to like Dumbledore showing up to protect Harry Potter from Voldemort. It's not just the fact that Yamamoto looks like a wizard, I promise. It's more that seeing someone this powerful come to fight the enemy is like a little bit of a relief. Aizen doesn't seem to fear anyone, but if he were to fear someone's power, I would assume it would be Yamamoto's. And these chapters gave me reason to believe that might be the case. If he's not scared, then at the very least, Aizen is smart enough to know that he needs to be very cautious with Yamamoto. After all, let's not forget that this battle for Karakura Town began with Yamamoto immediately trapping Aizen and two other former captains behind a wall of flames, keeping them stuck there for quite a while. We've seen that Yamamoto neutralized Aizen, or at least that's what Aizen made me believe. Could have been all a trick. Like I said, I'm not Yamamoto's biggest fan or anything on a personal level, but he is one of the most powerful characters we've seen. I love seeing him fight and unleash his fury, and this was definitely no exception. And it had that feeling of being like the final potential hope besides Ichigo is, the greatest of all the Soul Reapers taking on Aizen. Although Urahara should get involved in this, right? What's Urahara doing? Or is he just in his shop? Or is he hoping that Aizen wins because he's actually really shady? I don't know. I loved the initial clash where Aizen stabs him, but Yamamoto uses it to his advantage, using the Zanpakuto's presence in his body to confirm that the man in front of him really is Aizen. He doesn't want to fall for the hypnosis like the others did, and we learn why he stayed out of the fight until now, setting up this giant blaze of fire all around them. Yes, he used his soldiers being cut down as a distraction to set this up, but that's completely in line with his character. Yamamoto puts his duty and the mission above all things, including the well-being of his subordinate Soul Reapers. He's willing to make sacrifices for the greater good, including himself. He's willing to die and to take Aizen with him, and that's actually part of the plan, even telling Ichigo to get the heck out of there so he doesn't die too. While the wounded captains will also die in the flames, he knows that they're all prepared and willing to give their lives to stop Aizen. It's such a crazy, kind of inspiring moment from him. Unfortunately, it's cut short when Wonderweiss suddenly appears, having transformed and looking weirder than ever, and the kid already was like, the weirdest. Anyway, Wonderweiss interrupts and douses all of Yamamoto's flames with a touch, because it turns out that he is the only modified Arrancar, one that Aizen created for a very specific purpose. His powers are designed to contain Yamamoto's flames, essentially acting as the world's most powerful fire extinguisher. So, that's a problem, but it's an interesting answer to why Wonderweiss is so weird and what his purpose has been. I've been so curious about him and his odd nature since he was first shown. We got to see his creation, but he wasn't one of the Espada, and was given so much page time by Kubo as he kept making sure that we remembered he was there. I knew there had to be something more to him, obviously, and now here it is, and I'm pretty satisfied with the answer. Someone like Aizen, who knows his enemies so intimately, would have prepared for things that pose the most danger to him. It makes sense that he would have a weapon specifically designed to go against Yamamoto's power. Aizen even admits that in a one-on-one battle, Yamamoto would probably win, but Aizen's intelligence is his greatest asset. He knew that he needed to bring something special to go up against the head captain. This really does make me wonder, though, where Wonderweiss would rank as far as power among the other Espada. It's gotta be a bit high, right? Considering how he gives Yamamoto a little bit of a challenge, though a lot of that is situationally contributed by his innate advantage he has. While he did do pretty well against the Visored, I do think that he only survived so long against the head captain because of his power specifically. So I'm gonna say Wonderweiss is probably within range of like maybe the middle of the Espada, maybe towards the top 4, maybe that's too high, but I think he did better against his opponents than Grimmjow or Neutra would have. I don't know, it's hard to say, but he's very kind of battle specific as far as this particular power he has goes. Like, his power is meant to just essentially neutralize Yamamoto, so I don't think that would be that helpful against some of the other opponents. I don't know, I feel like this is the battle he'd do best in, and he still kind of got wrecked. But making Wonderweiss this way and giving him this power came at a price. A really messed up, sad price. Apparently, in order to gain this specific ability, Wonderweiss had to give up everything else, which is the explanation for why he seems so simple-minded. Everything was exchanged. His memory, his intelligence, his voice, everything, which is kind of really awful to think about. Aizen stripped away things that help make someone more of their own independent person in order to have a weapon. The Espada, and even someone like Tozen, for instance, despite all of their power and faults, all of those characters were still individuals with thoughts and feelings of their own. Yes, some were blindly loyal to Aizen, but that was their choice, and they had their own reasons. They had agency and emotions, but Wonderweiss isn't allowed to have any of that. It's actually really sad when you take a step back and look at him. It's made worse by the fact that with his initial design being shown as an adolescent, Kubo has intentionally instilled a kind of inherent innocence about Wonderweiss. Yes, he can be violent and loud, but there have been moments when he's been portrayed as just a simple, innocent creature, and now we know that Aizen robbed him of being anything else. He's a blank slate that's just been designed to be used. It's awful, and just another level of Aizen's depravity. Yes, it's smart to have a Yamamoto-ready fire extinguisher on hand, but to do this in order to have one, it's gross and sad to have essentially lobotomized him like this. It's a reminder that while we have more blatant mad scientists that have been shown in Bleach, Aizen should still be counted among them. having arguably performed some of the cruelest experiments that we've seen. I kind of sit back and I wonder what kind of hollow Wonderweiss was before Aizen did this to him. We've seen so many different personalities among the Espada, ranging from Neutra and Xyloporo cruelty and like Araniero to like Ukiora and Nell, like more kind of thinking creatures, you know, ones that are trying to find understanding. And that, or like Harabel has compassion for her subordinates, and Grimjow has his own ambitions, and there's all these personalities. They weren't stripped of those things. His Resurrection design is kind of wild. It makes him look even stranger somehow, giving him all of these weird proportions, and gets even weirder when arms start coming out of his shoulders. He continues to be shown to be very strong, even as Yamamoto relies on his own brute strength to fight him, since he can't use his flames. And this brings us to one of the coldest lines in the whole series as far as I'm concerned. Seriously chilling stuff, like unhinged stuff, as Yamamoto gives himself permission to go all out against the modified Arrancar, destroying him with a very powerful blow, but we're left on a sad reminder of what had been done to Wonderweiss, as Yamamoto says that Aizen hadn't stripped away all of his emotion after all, because in his final moments, Wonderweiss looked afraid. Chilling. Like, that's a very tragic note to leave such a badass moment on. The whole thing just made me sad, and I didn't think I would feel all that bad for Wonderweiss, but here I am. He was just another victim of Aizen's cruelty and his manipulation, his need to control everything. And what happened with Wonderweiss just now as he was killed brings up an interesting conversation between Yamamoto and Aizen that unfortunately is briefer than I want it to be. When the head captain notes how cruel Wonderweiss's existence was, Aizen counters that there's nothing cruel about giving hollows purpose, when they otherwise would just exist to feed on souls, and instead argues that Yamamoto killing him is the actual cruel thing. It's a debate that I would have liked to see more of, because it starts to kind of weigh the merits of a hollow's existence to begin with, and how becoming an Arrancar might change the perception of their worth. But unfortunately, Yamamoto doesn't want to argue about it, and I'm like, dang it, I wanted to hear more. It piqued my interest for sure. So to throw my hat into the debate ring against Aizen instead though, yes, most hollows we have seen with their masks intact are dictated mainly by their hunger for souls, but I'd argue some of them, if not most of them, still have more individual agency and thought than Wonderweiss was allowed to have. Sure, they only really care about feeding in the end, but that's still more of a purpose of their own than Wonderweiss's supposed purpose as a tool. The only purpose being served was Aizen's, but of course that's the only purpose Aizen cares about. Everyone and everything are beneath him, and just instruments to be used. So no, Aizen, what you did was cruel, and Yamamoto sadly had to free Wonderweiss from the horrible existence you created for him. And then the whole thing with Yamamoto's flame being contained in Wonderweiss now being set off was crazy, as he used his own body to contain the blast, and from what they said, that explosion would have been catastrophic, but Yamamoto managed to shield the world from it with his own body. And it really did a number on him, but it's impressive that he survived at all. I did appreciate that even though Aizen is letting the other captains live to witness his plans come to fruition, which is kinda cruel, he respects Yamamoto enough, or maybe fears him enough, to not want to give him the same fate. Ready to end his life. But then, even already so beaten down, Yamamoto does one last-ditch effort to try to kill Aizen, apparently using some forbidden technique that sacrifices his own body, but even that doesn't work. It's crazy. Even if he failed, it's undeniable that head captain Yamamoto is a beast. And what scares me most thinking about it, this man didn't even use a Bankai. Crazy. I can't even begin to imagine what his Bankai is. Like summoning an equivalent of a supernova or something. Like he turns into the freaking sun and scorches the whole earth. I don't know. It's gotta be crazy. Unleashes hellfire. It's gotta be awesome if he ever gets the chance to use it. It's gotta be so powerful that he couldn't use it against Aizen. Because he totally would have, right? But it's gotta be so strong that he can't. It's not a total loss though, as the distraction might be exactly what Ichigo needed to finally attack Aizen. And that's where we'll end this. I had way more thoughts on this than I expected, but Kubo put so much into these couple chapters, and he's been doing that with all of these confrontations. It's impressive how much he continues to go into all of it. This battle has been crazy. We're really winding down as far as combatants now. We've got, Ichigo versus Aizen. Gin is still there. Who else is even left? Trying to think. Urahara's got to be around. But everyone else is pretty much incapacitated unless some of the people come from Wako Mundo. Unohana, she's there. Unohana's there. Do something, Unohana. Heal everyone. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, yeah. That's it for now. I'll see you all next time. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. If you want to support the channel a little extra, then please feel free to become a member. We really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys all next time. Take care. Bye.